What's up, guys? It's your boy Gob, and today I'm going to teach you guys farming for dummies in SCUM. Now, in SCUM, there's a few things to know about farming. I'm going to teach you guys the basics, and from there, I'm sure you guys can learn. It's pretty easy after you guys know the basics. So, to begin with, you're going to want to build a garden plot. Now, those require you to go into the build menu, and then you want to find the garden plot. After you build it, you're going to decide what size of a garden you want, and your next step from there should be to find seeds. Now, you can find seeds in a lot of places, and you can also find fruit or vegetables and collect the seeds from them, and you can use those seeds later to plant. Now, after you've collected the seeds, what you want to do is plant them. You can plant them with your hands or with a garden hoe. I just do it with my hands. It really doesn't matter. And you want to make sure to clear the weeds by just clicking on it, and it should, clear the weeds off the garden plot. So after you have your seeds planted, you're going to want to hold right click to be able to look at, it's basically a focus mode, and it allows you to look at every plot by itself. So you'll have these lines that show up once you do that. There are 5 lines, and we'll start from the top. Now at the top, you're going to have what type of plant it is, and this tells you what you're growing. Now your second line is going to be what phase of growth your plant is in. And there's 5 phases. We'll get into that right after this. The third line should be how much sunlight your plant is getting. And that is very important because you want to know where to grow your plants based on how much sunlight they're going to need. Now, when you first start, just plant anywhere, and that'll teach you what areas are good to grow in, what areas aren't. It depends on the plant, of course, to see if that, some plants will work in a really humid environment. Some of them will work in a cold environment. Now, the next line after that is how much water it has. Now, as you can see on my screen, I have 2,000 milliliters. Now, that's a lot. I accidentally overpoured. It doesn't really matter. It's just going to use it all up, and eventually you're just stocking it up. So it doesn't matter how much water it gets. It's just going to keep draining it. It's just good to have a lot because then you don't have to keep watering them. And the rain can actually water them for you. So you have that on top of you watering them. All right, guys. Now your last line, that's your fertilizer. You don't necessarily need fertilizer, but it is recommended because it will increase the quality of your plant. And I'm not sure about this, but it could also increase the yield that you get. Now that we know the columns and what they mean, let's move on to the phases of these plants. So your first phase is going to be seeding. Now that's when you first plant it. It's probably going to be like that for a day, depending on the climate you grew it in. Your next step or your next phase is going to be vegetating. Now vegetating is basically the next step above seeding, but it also takes a while for it to leave the vegetating state. After your vegetating state, you're going to come up to a flowering phase. Now the flowering phase is when you start seeing the plant rise, and it's basically, on its way to perfection. That's good. Now the next phase is the ripening. Now this is the phase before it's basically ready to cultivate. And the ripening takes about a day as well. In game, of course, and afterwards they're going to go into the last phase, which is ripe. Now ripe is when you can harvest your plants. Now your yield is going to depend on how much care you had for your plants and how well you took care of your plants, basically. Once they're full grown and ripe, you're going to be able to yield from them multiple times. It depends on how well you took care of your plants, but you could have multiple yields before they die. So don't go ahead and destroy them after you yield from them once. Keep them because they can keep yielding. And yeah, that basically covers it. You guys just grew your own plants. It's pretty simple. And if you guys do run out of water, here's a fun fact. You can actually urinate on your plants, and it gives it about 300 milliliters of water. That's a funny little thing you can do. So if you don't have any water around and you're struggling trying to water your plants, just give it a good old pee. I hope this helped you guys grow your plants or helped you learn more about how to grow your plants. And if you like my content, be sure to follow and subscribe. And if you don't like my content, let me know what I can do better. Now, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and Godspeed. Hell yeah.